Hello, this is Scott Conaway with MothersRaisingSons.com, and we are talking about connecting with your kids. The focus, of course, being on the teenage children that have a tendency to pull back. And this is something you can use to connect with anybody under any circumstance, and it's the power of a shared experience. Sometimes, honestly, relationships get to the point where there's so much distance, it's really hard to find any way to connect. That you might find it difficult to talk. Almost all the conversations you have might feel like they're turning into fights. And it can be very difficult to cope with some of these things and figure out, how do I connect? I would love to connect with my kid on something that's important to them. I'd love to have them connect with me on something that's important to me. I just can't ever seem to have a conversation with the kid. What do I do? How do I do this? And so even if things are bad, this works. Well, the beauty of this is it doesn't even matter if things are bad. Things can be fantastic, and this technique will work. And it's the power of shared experiences. Just having a shared experience. Now, this is how simple a shared experience is. We go to a movie. I'm sitting here in my seat. You're sitting there in your seat. We're both looking that way at the same. How much interaction do we have to do? Very little. So say we're going to go see Avengers Age of Ultron. My kids are all going to be interested in that movie. I'm going to be interested in that movie. And even if I wasn't interested in the movie, I might go see the movie just because they were interested in the movie. All we may be doing, not interacting at all, we're just in the car, and it just might be quiet in the car, get the tickets, sit down in the theater. We're sharing this experience. The power of this is now we have a shared experience we can talk about. We have a shared experience I can ask about it. Even if I am clueless about it, or heck, for that matter, even if I do know something about it, I can ask, is this Ultron character, is that like a thing from the comic books? And okay, so these different characters. Okay, I get Iron Man, he built a suit. What's okay, Thor, is that like the Norse god Thor? Is that really what we're talking about? Is that, so now in this universe, do all the gods exist? I'm not sure I understand. And use this shared experience to be able to have a conversation. Now, sometimes you'll build shared experiences and you still can't have a conversation. The relationship could be at a point where you still can't talk. But you still build the shared experience because at some later point when the relationship isn't where it's at, you will have these anchor points of shared experiences you will still be able to talk about later on. Because even if during this particular season, things weren't going so well, a year from now, 2 years from now, when the kid's an adult, you'll still be able to talk about, oh, yeah, that Ultron movie. Remember, we went to go see that. And it can still be a shared experience that you can use later on as an anchor point for this fact that you were there during these years and that you were participating in their life during these years. It's very easy just to pull back completely. But shared experiences is an easy way to build points of connection, whether or not you're even able to use them at that time. So San Diego Comic Convention. That's something that my wife generally would not be interested in attending. Now, I'll tell you my personal fantasy. This is my personal fantasy. It would be an expensive fantasy, I admit, but personal fantasy is being able to get passes so all of us could go. Now, in her case, it's going to be very, very overwhelming in a very short amount of time, and there's only going to be a handful of things that will interest her. So what I would fantasize about is being able to get a room or a suite or something in easy walking distance from the convention and have specific panels, specific events, specific things for all of us to do together as a family. Basically, this is the same thing I did when I took the boys. Every day we try to have at least one thing we all did together, and then I allowed them to split up. And so long as there was a phone and working for texting, and we had our meetup times and places we knew to be at this particular place at this particular time to kind of coordinate, and that I had the list of this is where you're going and this is what you're going to be doing, so I knew where they would be generally, then they could go do what they wanted. But I also wanted it to be a shared experience. And so one of the shared experiences we had is Stan Lee, who's like an icon of Marvel Comics. He was going to be on the Ultimate Alliance 2 panel. And so we went to go see the Ultimate Alliance 2 panel. And so we were there, and they were kind of excited, like, oh, that was Stan Lee. We were within like touching distance of Stan Lee, and we got to see him on the panel. And then later on, when that game finally came out, we bought them the game. So the game is an anchor point to remembering, it's a memory anchor to remember we were at this panel together. We were at the Comic-Con together as a group, as a team, as a family, and that we saw Stan Lee together. And so being able to find these ways to generate the memory anchors to be able to have that shared experience, and then a way to remember that shared experience. You know, we were at the Kennedy Space Center. And even though it would be pretty expensive to stay for the extra movie because it was going to cost more than going to a regular theater, we saw Transformers Dark Side of the Moon was actually playing at the Kennedy Space Center. You had to be in the Kennedy Space Center to be able to attend this particular movie. And so I spent the extra money, we attended, we saw it, and then when the DVD came out, of course we bought the DVD or the Blu-ray. So now the Dark Side of the Moon becomes an anchor point to when we were at the Kennedy Space Center. Becomes an anchor point to remembering our entire Orlando trip and all of the Disney stuff and the Universal stuff and Holy Land Experience stuff and, of course, the Kennedy Space Center that we got to go to. And then we're able to kind of expand that so all Transformer stuff becomes a reminder of that. And all NASA stuff can become an anchor point to that whole trip. And it's having that shared experience and then finding memory anchors to tap into that shared experience can be enormously powerful to connect with your kids. So this is Scott Conway, PhD JD with mothersraisingsons.com, and wrapping up with our 40 or 50 long boxes of comic books here, and wrapping up with our example from the San Diego Comic Convention. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you inside as members.